Welcome to part 2 of our operations video. I hope that you saw the operating action in part 1, since we'll pick up right where we left off. Meanwhile, Bob has been sorting his cars in the yard. He moves the reefer and the nickel plate boxcar onto yard track number 2, where the other cars destined for Alta are located. These will be loaded onto the car float when the time comes to work the Alta ferry. The other 4 cars need to be set out at Industries on the west end of Concorde, so Bob temporarily puts them in one of the available yard tracks. Before he makes any more car moves, Bob files his car cards so that he knows where each car is located. Track space for switching in Concorde is tight, so since Bob no longer needs his idler car, he drops it off by the engine servicing facility. This saves him 1 car length while he's switching. Since the turnouts at the West End Industries are facing point turnouts, Bob's switcher is on the wrong end of the cars in the yard in order to shove them into the appropriate sidings. Now Bob and Al need to coordinate their dance moves. To clear the runaround track so that he can bring the new cars out to Al, Bob heads up to the runaround track and couples onto the cars that Al has picked up. Bob then moves the cars to the yard, where they will be loaded later onto the ferry bound for Bucky's Crossing. Al has given Bob the car cards for these cars, so Bob files the cards in the appropriate car card box. Bob then takes the cars to be set out at Concorde Industries back up to the runaround track and leaves them for Al. Bob then heads back to the yard to take a break before he has to start loading the outbound ferry. Since Al positioned his switcher on the east switching lead, he's in the perfect position to couple onto the new string of cars and shove them down to the appropriate sidings on the west end. Bob has given Al the car cards for these cars, so Al lays them out on his workspace so that he knows which cars go where. Al first heads to Fraser Foods to set out the Great Northern boxcar at door number 1. After setting out the car, Al puts the car card into the set-out box for Fraser Foods. The next 2 cars are destined for Valley Fuel, but the cars are in the reverse order of what's needed. So Al moves down to the lower set of tracks and drops off the boxcar temporarily so that he can position the tank car at the fuel loading dock. Al then goes back for the boxcar and sets it out at Valley Fuel's small warehouse. Again, Al puts the car cards in the appropriate box. 3 cars down, 1 to go. But things are never as simple as you'd like. Al needs to spot the coal hopper next to the coal unloading equipment on the team track, but the gondola is in his way. So Al couples onto the gondola and moves it out of the way so he can spot the coal hopper as needed. He then returns to the gondola and moves it back into position at the freight dock on the team track. Finally, Al puts the car card for the coal hopper in the box for the team track. Al's work is done for now, so he moves his switcher to the interchange track where he'll work later this afternoon. So Al and Bob have unloaded the inbound car float, picked up cars that would be loaded onto the car float bound for Bucky's Crossing, and set out cars at the appropriate industries on the west end of Concorde. As you saw, it's important that both operators coordinate with each other as they complete their tasks. There's obviously multiple ways that Al and Bob could have done their jobs. Operators have the flexibility to decide how they want to do things in Concorde during operating sessions. And with cars arriving via the car float and via the interchange track, the jobs for the two switchers in Concorde are never the same. The Concorde Branch provides a lot of enjoyment for operators during a Willow Creek operating session. It's fun to see how much challenge a 24 square foot switching layout can provide. For operators on the Willow Creek, the Concorde Branch has become a choice position. This completes our first operating session on the Concorde Branch. I hope that you've enjoyed the fun. And as always, thank you for visiting the Willow Creek Railroad.